Hey, what's going on, everybody? I know this is, oh yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning, and live, and probably all my 104 subscribers are either asleep or stuff like that. But that hasn't stopped me from doing early in the morning streams, and you guys can catch it recorded or whenever. Um, so as the title of this video says, we are talking about the Elvis movie that just came out. From Baz Luhrmann, and I saw it today. And I had mixed feelings of what I feel like I knew what I was gonna expect coming into the film, about the whole thing. Because I feel like I knew that yeah, like I knew early on uh coming into this that I didn't expect it to be a great film because it's Elvis is such an important person. I've been saying this all day. Elvis is a icon who is loved by billions of people around the world. And it's just, like I'm a huge diehard Elvis fan. I've been one since I was in middle school. And I just, can't think of, like I can't think of somebody who is more important to rock music than, other, I mean, there are other musicians, yes, but like who's had an impact to this day of like somebody even in this like, decade that will have an impact like Elvis. As the same with the other artists of that time, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Fats Domino, Bo Diddley, going into the 60s, the Beatles, the Stones, it's just God. I mean, and I when I first heard that there was gonna be a biopic about this was during the popularity of Bohemian Rhapsody, the Elton John one, Rocket Man. And then when I heard they were gonna go backward, because those were 70s artists, and then they were gonna go back to the 50s and do Elvis, it was like, why? We already have an Elvis biopic, and that was with Kurt Russell in '79 by John Carpenter. And that was like the best biopic of them all. Because even though there was one in 2005 with Jonathan Rhys Meyers, I that was really, not good in my opinion. Because it took place from the early 50s to the late 60s, and Jonathan Rhys Meyers didn't age at all. They didn't do any like really, thing about his appearance. He didn't even look like Elvis really. But in this case, Kurt Russell looked like Elvis, in that film. In this, yeah, like I mean, what I'm saying in this case, like with the 2022 film now, um, Austin Butler did do a, they did a good job at doing a good wardrobe with him because like so I think Kurt Russell in the '79 one did a better, is the best Elvis out of anybody who's played Elvis. He was able to transform into Elvis. And I can't say that Austin Butler did the same. Is Austin Butler a good actor? My opinion for the longest time was he was not a good actor. This movie, I say, does change that, he has definitely grown. He started out as a teen actor on Nickelodeon. People who my age would know him from the Nickelodeon shows that he was on. He appeared in iCarly. He had a cameo, like, I mean, he wasn't as big at the time, but he was an extra on Drake and Josh. He then appeared in Zoe 101 for a little bit as a regular character. That's how I really first knew who he was. He was in the last season of Zoe 101, and he played basically just he was just like there to be a block. He was kind of like just blocking the love interests of the show, the two main love interests, Zoe and Chase, from getting together, of being like the boyfriend. He was just really a fill-in. He wasn't supposed to be in the show that long. He was just in for that season. Um, and I thought, this is the lamest fucking character out there. And when I heard of who they were casting for the film, um, you know, I thought, wow, they're really trying to make this Hollywood cash grab film, you know, because they're thinking of just big name people like Miles Teller, Miles Teller, Ansel Elgort, probably a few other big names, and then Austin Butler was also in that category. And I thought out of all of them, I'm like, well, why Austin Butler? I mean, the first thing I think of is Zoe 101, and then I think of also too. It's just like he's not even that well known. I feel like, as in, like he's not he like how is he even in that category? Because I never thought of him as like a movie star, as the way Miles Teller was or Ansel and Gory, because they both had big hit films in the early 2010s that made them really iconic. Miles Teller in Whiplash, and Ansel and Gory in Fault in Our Stars. But Austin Butler really didn't have that. I mean, like he was in Nickelodeon, he was in that. Yeah, and then when I heard that he was gonna be Elvis, it's like, no, no, this guy, this motherfucker, the guy who played James in Zoe 101, the dullest character, is going to be playing Elvis Presley? Are you high? That is literally what I thought. That is what I like. I was just like, no, this cannot be happening. And, to my surprise, it was happening. It was happening. God, I sound like Josh now from Drake and Josh. Happening. But, yeah. And you know, was like, all right, we'll see how this film goes. I was able to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, considering, this was 2019 when this news coverage was coming out. The show's only one was in the in the late 2000s. Things have changed. He could be a different actor, and I never, this is a sin, but I've never seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I know he played Tex Watson in that, so I was like, all right, I'll be willing to give him a try. And I saw early on he was, in interviews, he was starting to, go into the Elvis accent, dyed his hair black and all that. And I think that's really, he was really getting into the role of Elvis. And, so it was interesting to see like what was gonna come of that. Would he actually be able to pull it off? And to my surprise, he really did, impress me as an actor. He's definitely a method actor. I mean, even now, he's still talking in the way of, the way Elvis was, like in the way he plays him in the movie. And I think it's hard to get off of that because he was vocal trained for 2 years. He must have been an Elvis fan beforehand, because or became one, because he studied everything about Elvis, and all the archives and all that. And when I saw him on Jimmy Fallon talking about the Louisiana hayride and going into all that, I was like, that's what I loved, because I loved watching the Louisiana Hayride clip of his first appearance when I was in sixth grade, mind you. And God, I remember watching that and I'm like loving that. I just loved that. And it was really great in my opinion. Um, you know, so I just was really like, a fan early on of Elvis. And when this film came out of him doing yeah, where he was going to be doing him from he's going to play him from the 50s, 60s, 70s, doing a whole life biopic. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess theatrical release. We never had a theatrical Elvis release. They've all been TV movies beforehand. But to do a whole life, that's a challenge. And it did not pull off. It really didn't. So I was going to see this film with my girlfriend or a few of my friends, and but everybody was away today. Everybody was, and you know, I saw my favorite YouTuber JT Curtis's review on it, and how he walked out on Elvis. And now I'm like, okay, I gotta see it right away. I gotta get this over with to see is it worth it even. And in all honesty, I don't think it was a bad movie per se, but it wasn't a great movie, you know? I don't think it was the worst film I've ever saw in my life. I think there was some good things about it, but I think there was some stuff that was really bad. And I will start off by saying what I think is that for somebody who wants to be an Elvis fan or, wants to go into this movie learning about Elvis and becoming, a big Elvis fan, this is not a good introduction for that. If you are interested in film and love film, and just want to have a good time with entertainment, then you might be pleased. But if you are an Elvis fan, or yeah, if you're already an Elvis fan, a diehard Elvis fan, then you might not be pleased with it. If you love Elvis's music and just or just liked his music and loved his songs, then and not like diehard or really to the point where you studied his catalog, then you might still enjoy it. There's some memorable stuff. They've got a chance to use songs from him like I've said, I think the makeup, the costume of him from the 50s, 60s, and 70s is really cool. There are some times where it actually Austin Butler actually looks like Elvis, and you can't tell, is that actually Elvis? And so I think or is that Austin Butler? And like the makeup's pretty good with that. And I gotta say, even because Austin Butler did some of the own of his own singing, it's kind of mixed. Some of it's his singing and some of it's actually Elvis. Um, Sometimes I can't even tell, is that Elvis or is that Austin Butler? So he definitely did some good vocal training for that. Yeah, I mean, it was reported that he was going to be singing some of the songs. I didn't even know Austin Butler was really a singer, and a musician. But it works in some ways. I think, you know, the problems that really bother me, and this bothers me about a lot of biopics, bothered me about Rockman, bothered me about Bohemian Rhapsody, it bothered me about, even Buddy Holly's story, you know, uh, Great Balls of Fire, anything. There's going to be inaccurate stuff. I get it. It's a Hollywood movie. Things aren't always going to be, you have to entertain the audiences. And sometimes you're going to, mix up facts or mess up stuff to kind of make the plot go smoother. But there's ways you can do that and be factual. You don't have to make up stuff. I get it. It's Hollywood, it's entertainment, but still be accurate. If you're gonna do something about somebody's life, you would handle it the same. You would probably handle it differently if you were going with Kennedy or if you were doing a film about a politician. You would make sure it's more accurate, than a biopic of a music. It's just like a musician. That's why biopics of musicians nowadays, I loved them when I was in middle school because I thought it was a great way to learn about them. But now I realize it's sort of an insult on their memory. And you can tell why certain musicians don't want one. They want to do one on Billy Joel. Billy Joel doesn't want one. Sting doesn't want one. I don't know about Eric Clapton, but I don't even know if Eric Clapton wants one, if there is one, or if there's talk about one. But so I get it. And Elvis, there's already been stuff about Elvis before, so it's like, all right, yeah, sure, we'll have one. But, you know, I agree with JT Curtis that this seems such a Hollywood cash grab. And also, too, he claimed that he felt like it was like a 2 hour trailer. And it is. It feels like that. And it feels like this the fast paced editing from Baz Luhrmann is just, it's crazy. It's like we go from one scene to the next. It's like it's really like this fast train ride. And it's just like it makes no sense why you're going so fast. And it's just like I think in some ways you start a film, you didn't have to start with him going from making a record for his mom's birthday. And because we've already seen that in the 79 one, we saw it in the 2005 one. So I get it. We don't need to see that. We can start maybe with him already being on Sun label. So which is why they kind of start that. But then they go backwards. It's all over the place. It jumps all over. And I don't like that. I don't like the relationship they show with his mother Gladys. In the 79 when they show it more love and they don't really show as much of a love and relationship or as the connection. If you're an Elvis fan or if you want to know about Elvis, you have to know about his importance with his mother. And it's this film doesn't show the love between him and his mother as the 2005 one even did, but definitely the 79 one when Shelley Winters played the mother. They're really, and I don't know if having a well-known I forget the actress's name who played his mother in this film, but maybe if you had a big name, maybe that would have been different. But you have Tom Hanks, one of the biggest actors of all time, one of my favorite actors, and that's what was like. I'll see this movie because Tom Hanks is going to be in it. But even Tom Hanks doesn't pull off this. Tom Hanks can play a lot of roles and be successful in it, but for him to play Colonel Tom Parker, it's not like I know it's Tom Hanks. I don't believe it's Colonel Tom Parker. When he was in Saving Mr. Banks, I believed he was Walt Disney. Even in the post, I believed he was Ben Bradley. But I didn't, believe he was Colonel Tom Parker. And maybe it's because I knew Colonel Tom Parker from the story with Elvis to the point where I don't see that many people playing Colonel Tom Parker, and maybe I've portrayed because Tom Hanks is an older actor at this point now. He's in his mid 60s. And I guess I still see him, in movies when he was younger, when he was in movies like Big, That Thing You Do, Forrest Gump, all those movies. And I just he doesn't play it well. And there's talk about, criticizing the accent because Colonel Tom Parker was actually from Holland. But if you see Colonel Tom Parker in interviews, he's got more of a southern accent. That was more orchestrated, I think, by him. But Colonel Tom Parker, I think we have to address too as Elvis's manager, was what held Elvis back from really being successful throughout the 60s and 70s. Um, and he should have got rid of him a long time ago. And, Colonel Tom Parker was a strong force and held a real control over Elvis that he couldn't let go of. And, he outlived Elvis. Elvis really never got a chance to be free from him. Never really. He tried, to get free of him in the 70s, but he never really had success. In my opinion, he should have got rid of him during the army and during, like even like, before he did his movie career stuff. Because the problem with Elvis was, the problem with, where his career was going was Colonel Tom Parker felt like they wanted a scene in Elvis. Elvis wanted to be a serious actor. So it wasn't working that to have Elvis be this, this serious drama actor like James Dean or Marlon Brando. So they needed to have a formula of him singing a lot of songs and dancing with a pretty girl. And so I get that, of why, to keep the money going. But, there was so much stuff Elvis could have done with his career that was better. That would have been way better than that. And also too about him being in the army. Colonel Tom Parker, that was his idea to get a good publicity for Elvis, And yeah, let's talk about how they portray the army. They don't really portray him being in the army. It's just him meeting Priscilla. They don't really from seeing the trailer, that's the problem with trailers nowadays. I feel like you sort of know what's going to happen in the movie nowadays when they release so many trailers, and that's the problem. They release too many clips early on of this film. They should not have. I've never seen a film release this many clips before its release. They released too many clips, and I think also a big problem of it too was that not only did they release many clips, it kind of portrayed where the movie was going. We knew early on, that's the thing, that they already told us what was going to happen. It was going to be his whole life, but they gloss over really important facts and just important parts. Like the 50s, I felt like they glossed over that, even though that wasn't, that did take place, I believe it was an hour in the film, at least, Yeah, it was about an hour they went to the 50s. It didn't feel like that. Maybe it wasn't even an hour, but, like, it didn't feel that long at all, and it's just I don't agree with JT Curtis to the point where it was so bad that I had to walk I didn't feel like I had to walk out of the theater. I didn't feel like that. Were there times that were boring? Yes. During the end, I even started to doze off a little. But so I can't say I loved this film. It was a masterpiece. I couldn't say that. Um, you know, uh, because the problem too is, yeah, really, this is an important figure in American history for rock music, and they needed to focus on that. And when you deal with Elvis, especially from the 50s, you gotta focus on the importance of rock and roll and what it did for black and white audiences and how it created racial harmony and all that. And focus on the tension of what was going on. And it was sort of like, what they did well was focus on the black community in this film. They did a good job at showing some of that with BB King, Little Richard, Big Mama Thornton, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. They really did a good job at showing the love of him, the love of that music from him, and yeah, and it was just and it's great that they got a chance we got a chance to see that, that was cool and all that. I think because we never really seen that in an Elvis film before, 1979 did not have that, so we needed that. Um, I think it would have been cool to see a little bit more of that. I loved that they explored a friendship that he had with BB King. Now, I don't know if there was ever a full friendship that he had with him. I know that they met, and I didn't know this. Being an Elvis fan, I really actually didn't know that he knew BB King until about actually a few months ago. And I thought that that was really cool, that they knew each other. Uh, and I don't know if it was so much of like a friend. I don't know if it's a little inaccurate, like, and it's not as true, like almost like how Buddy Holly and Sam Cooke were seen as friends in the Buddy Holly story. We even though that was not true, they didn't tour together. I don't know if they even met. So I don't know if it's sort of like that kind of friendship in a movie, like if that's kind of like fictionalized a little, because it seemed like more of like I don't know if they were like buddies the way that they were portraying it as, like they were like best buddies, because that's sort of the way they were portraying it as like not like best buddies, but like close friends. I don't know if that was the case. I know Elvis, had a good relationship with these artists like Chuck Berry, Little Richard. They were Chuck Berry has said they were friends. Chuck Berry said that Little Richard has thanked Elvis, and that's the thing too. The argument that he stole from black culture or that he ripped black musicians off, and in ways, he was a white guy that got famous off of black music. It was originally from black people, and but the thing too is that I hate when people say that he ripped them off, because he did idolize these people. He loved these artists, and you see that in the film. It shows that of these stories of how there's a scene in the film where he calls Fats Domino the king of rock and roll, which was true. He loved Little Richard. He loved Jackie Wilson. He and Jackie Wilson were friends. Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, even though Sammy Davis Jr. isn't really rock and roll, but yeah, no, he really no, he loved these musicians. So I hate when people go to that and say that, because I don't believe that, and I don't believe that many people are saying that nowadays. And I think the problem is, I've always, and not to go on a complete rant about this, but TikTok, I feel like, brings up those old tropes, and tries to play on that with and it's just like, this is not that's not good, but anyway, that's not important to what this is about. So this movie does not represent Elvis in the way that it should. It's not a good representation of his life. It's not good for people who wanna get into rock and roll. It's not good for people who wanna become an Elvis fan, okay? This is not that type of movie. So it really isn't, and also, okay, let's talk about this part, the music in the film. And I knew that there was gonna be probably some, they were gonna play this song during a time period when it didn't come out yet, and there was that. But I didn't expect it to be the way it was. So they really gloss over the parts. They don't, and you know what I don't like, and I've noticed this with new biopics, where they don't even really, say what year it is. They need to say what year it is and have it in, like how you saw it in the Buddy Holly story, La Bamba, Great Balls of Fire. Put the year, like when of where it starts, so people can know and have an idea of where it's going to begin. You don't really, I don't remember seeing that in this film. I never saw it in Rocket Man. I didn't see it in the Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. uh, just do that. It's that simple. I mean, to just put a date in that, like, come on, and oh my god, really glossing over stuff. So, like, I knew, being an Elvis fan, of what year all this stuff was taking place, but they make it seem like with Graceland, they go so fast and talking about him buying Graceland. Graceland was an important moment in his life, but to gloss over that too and make it seem like it was 1956, it was 1957, and that it was around the time of Milton Berle. They don't even talk about the Ed Sullivan Show, which I even say that, when people talk about, the Ed Sullivan Show for the Beatles, that was an important moment in their career. And I don't believe the Ed Sullivan Show for Elvis was the same way as it was for the Beatles. I believe the TV appearance that made Elvis was the Dorsey Brothers stage show. They don't even show that. They don't even focus on that. They don't mention it. They mention Milton Berle. And Milton Berle is a great performance too. That is a legendary performance when he played Hound Dog and where he did the improvised slow version of that song. But to do the Louisiana Hayride and to know that the first song was That's All Right Mama and not play that for the Louisiana Hayride is just, why not do that? Like, why are you doing that? Like, for instance, like Baby Let's Play House came out in 55. I've listened to the Louisiana Hayride. Um, he does not do Baby Let's Play House right away. That's not, yeah, like he doesn't do that. He does That's All Right Mama because that was the record that came out at the time. In 54, he really only had two songs that he would play regularly, and that was That's All Right Mama and Blue Moon of Kentucky, because that was the record. So, to do that, I just was like, why? Why? And then the whole, what was really, I thought, stupid was the whole of them calling it the wiggle, with his shaking the legs. I thought that was cringy. It almost reminded me of like how it was stupid. I thought it was stupid in the 2005 film, where he was like in this one where he goes, why are they hollering at? And then, the bass player Black is like, they want to see, those damn girls want to see you wiggle, like, it's just, you know, that's the shaking of the hips is so important, and for it to just be like that is almost like to show that scene, it's almost like in Forrest, almost, I'm comparing it to like in Forrest Gump, where, like, that level of like stupidity that he got his moves from Forrest Gump, like it's almost like that, and this film, I felt like, coming into it was almost going to be like as just as mind blowing or hysterical, to the point where of like with when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, almost comparing it to that moment of just like of a level of stupidity and, outrage, of what this film was going to be, because it really is a Hollywood cash grab. But let's talk about, yeah, so other songs, for instance, because yeah, like Baby Let's Play the Louisiana Hayride, he did that in 1954. Baby Let's Play House was in 1955. But the thing that really got me was the Jacksonville performance. So he played Jacksonville in 1956. He was told not to wiggle, and he was supposed to only wiggle a finger, and he did. But this is the problem. So his lineup, his main band was Scotty Moore, Bill Black, and DJ Fontana. Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass, DJ Fontana on drums. So they show the performance of, of a whole, band behind him, not just them. Like this whole, like, kind of like, trumpets, all that. That was not the case. Elvis did have a big band later on, but not in the 50s. It was just the four of them. And sometimes maybe a piano player. But really just the four of them. And sometimes you have the Jordanaires, but they don't even show the Jordanaires. Elvis's famous backup singers from the 50s who were on "Don't Be Cruel," who were on like all of the famous Elvis gems. They're not even seen in the film at all. The Jordanaires, which and thank God they do give the name the Blue Moon Boys for Scotty Moore, Bill Black, and DJ Fontana. Thank God. At least they did that. But oh my God. Um, the performance in Jacksonville, the song they play is "Trouble." This is supposed to take place in 1956. Trouble, he didn't record that until 1958 for King Creole. Like, I know this is more of like a nitpick and all that, but for somebody who's an Elvis fan, it's like, or just simple research, you can just look up on Google, when did Trouble come out? I get why you use it because it's a good theme of, like, that, but even like the whole new Elvis stuff, like, I wanna show you who the real Elvis is. And him preaching that, it's just like, him yelling it as like a preaching it, it's just, oh God. And I don't even like this sequence when he's a kid going into a gospel choir of him getting hooked by, music and the way he's shaking like, and like, because that was when I heard that Baz Luhrmann was saying it's not a biopic, it's a superhero film, it's bad. When they say about a biopic for a music that it's not a biopic or it's not your ordinary biopic, from that statement onward, it's going to suck. Not that it's most likely going to suck, it's going to suck. So yeah, and that's sort of what it was. That is sort of what it was. And were there some great moments? Yeah. But yeah, no, to have trouble in that. And so it's sort of also to remind me of with the songs, because I wanted to see more of like the songs in this film. And they show, the comeback special. There's, some facts that they got wrong about that. Um, if I Can Dream, they play that. If I Can Dream is probably one of the best late 60s Elvis songs ever. When it comes to performance stuff, what I think they need to focus on is they didn't even focus on when he comes back, his comeback special. They focus on in the 60s making him a movie star. They don't even focus on that he actually did movies before he went into the army. He made 4 films: Love Me Tender, Loving You, Jailhouse Rock, and King Creole. King Creole is considered one of his best films, because that really does show off his acting. They mentioned Flaming Star, which was supposed to be, this drama film, which didn't do well, and it tanked kind of because it wasn't Elvis singing as much. So the formula musical movies were like GI Blues, and then of course films like that came on like Viva Las Vegas, Girl Happy, stuff like stuff like that, Kissing Cousins, Speed, yeah, like, oh God, just all of that stuff. Um, but yeah, no, I just it was yeah, it's just like, but the one thing about his music that I will say that I feel like I need to do to show Elvis fans this, or just anybody, is to make a playlist of his songs. Now, when I was in high school, I did a thing on YouTube on an old channel of mine where I made a playlist of Elvis songs that I believed defined him, and I called it the Golden Collection. And I think I'm going to do that, and I might do that more as a podcast episode for Radigan's Rockcast, and focus in on like and do it as a 3-part series, and go over fact by fact the song, try to do it in chronological order when the songs were recorded from each other, and also focusing on a specific part of Elvis's life in his prime. And I believe his prime was from the early 50s to 1961. I believe I said that in my podcast episode of Elvis that I did back in October. When I did that. I believe that's what I said then, and I say it now. Because they didn't even focus on in the film, which is something I think is crucial that they should have done, and does not get a lot of coverage, is the 1961 concert he did, um, at Pearl Harbor on March 25th. This performance was the last performance we will see the old Elvis. It was because it was the last, because then he went on to do his film career and wasn't touring. So it was his last performance before the 1968 comeback special. So yeah, he hadn't performed in basically 7 years. So it was interesting to see, it'd be interesting to see that. And I was surprised. Okay, I had a feeling they weren't gonna do that concert because that concert does not get a lot of publicity. It is shown in the Kurt Russell film, even though it's not shown as like what the concert is. It doesn't say it's Pearl Harbor, but it says it shows it as his last concert before he's going to make the movies. So it does that. But it does not show, like it does not say what it is, does not say the date, even though we believe it's probably the year it was supposed to be, which was 61. Yeah, no. So that's not in this film. I thought at least they would do the Frank Sinatra special, the when he came back home and he did the special on Frank Sinatra on the with Frank Sinatra. I couldn't believe they didn't even focus on that. They really don't focus anything on the army. So it's like they really didn't go early in his life. And I think the problem is what you do, what you should have done is focus on a specific time period. But because Hollywood was too focused on making Elvis a superhero and focusing on everything part of him, they don't care for a precise story that focuses on like a period piece. They want something that can be entertainment, something they can sell, like an action figure, like he's a fucking Star Wars character. I mean, seriously, it's it's absurd. It's absurd. And people are saying, it's like, Priscilla and the family are saying that, oh, this is a great movie and this, you know, represents his life. They're saying that now. They always are gonna say that to give good buzz for it, because they're getting, money from it, they're getting a deal from this movie. It helps with, benefits of, Graceland, of people seeing that. But it's not really they can come back years later and say, "I hated it. It showed nothing about Elvis of who he was." You know, and like, Priscilla Presley's like dissing the other biopics, like Elvis. How could you diss Elvis? But well, not like she's dissing it, but just like, how can you not say Elvis is not the greatest biopic, the '79 one, with Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell just does a good job. I mean, if Kurt Russell wasn't a good actor for Elvis, then why did he voice him in the Forrest Gump movie? Answer that. So that's what I don't get. And John Carpenter freaking directed it. This was a year after Halloween. I mean, it's just, you know, the biopics I wanted to see around this time is not an Elvis biopic, even though I'm an Elvis fan, because we already have an Elvis biopic that's good, and that's the '79 one. We don't need another one. But, yeah, I guess Hollywood disagrees with me. So, yeah, that's what I say on that. I mean, even like, but what biopic do I want to see? I want to see a biopic like, now we need, even though we have a Buddy Holly biopic, we need a better one because Buddy Holly's story got a lot of facts wrong, mostly everything wrong. We need a Buddy Holly movie that is going to be accurate. Now, there was talk that there was a movie called Clear Lake coming out, and I forget the actor's name, but he was in The Conjuring. Um, it's funny because like Tom Hanks played, Elvis' manager. His son, Colin Hanks, would be playing Buddy Holly's manager. Colin Hanks would be playing Norman Petty, and that's actually a good choice. Yeah, Norman Petty was younger than Tom Hanks, so that you don't have anybody really older for that. You do pick an older guy for who was Buddy Holly's DJ, High Pockets Duncan, who was kind of his first manager. Yeah, no, that's a film I want to see in the future, is focusing on Buddy Holly, but doing it in a way that shows him from the '50s to from all the years of the '50s, and not gloss over things. And it'd be harder to gloss over that because you're only dealing with a limited amount of time with Buddy Holly. At least with Elvis, you got years you can cover, a lot of years. But with when it comes to Buddy Holly, you don't have that many years at all to cover, really. You only got really a few years, so you're gonna have to stick with that time period, or else it's not gonna go well. So that's what I've got to say about that. Um, my future project, I think I've realized after this, is to get the Elvis Golden Collection playlist going and show that to the public of what I believe are. I'm going to focus on 60 Elvis songs that shape him from the prime of his career, and it will focus on some early Sun records. It'll focus on some records that weren't even released right away or stuff like that. It'll it'll show Elvis at his prime, who he was at that time, and why those songs stand out. And yeah, I don't know when that'll come out, but that'll be something I will be working on as soon as I can. And getting together that for you guys. So that's my plan with that. The Elvis Golden Collection. I don't know when that will be out yet, but that's a goal for that. And I'd be focusing on it as if I worked for RCA and was responsible for getting a compilation album of Elvis, what songs would I choose? That's how I'm going to view it. As the record. And so yeah, but that's what I would say there. And yeah, no, that's basically it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy this review. If you want to, if you want to see it for yourself, go ahead, see it. Definitely, I can't stop you there. The actor BB King was great. I don't know his name, but got his mannerisms down pretty well. Um, the little Richard actor, I felt like was, I mean, we didn't see him that much, so we really couldn't tell. But definitely like the BB King actor. But yeah, no. And Austin Butler, I mean, he wasn't terrible. I he did surprise me. He was the difference with that. He can act, and I think he is going places. And I think even though he was never maybe an A-list celebrity, this movie has probably turned him into that. So yeah. He had a connection with Elvis too, of being I'm 23. Elvis was 23 when he lost his mother, and Austin Butler was 23 when he lost his mother, and that was really sad. Which, of course, but the film didn't even focus on that well. You know what? Let's wrap it up. I think you guys get the gist of how I feel about this film, and yeah. So mixed review for me, but yeah, definitely not the greatest biopic out there. Definitely not the greatest film. And yeah, that's what I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, like all that jazz at this point. You know what to do if you like it. But yeah. See you guys soon. Bye.